Welcome back. In this mini lecture, we will look at public sector services. The most straightforward definition is that this is a service that is provided by a government to people living within its jurisdiction. This is done directly through the public sector or by financing private provision of services. And in the last couple of decades, the outsourcing of public sector provision or public service provision to the private sector has become increasingly popular in many countries. The outsourcing of public service provision involves a trade-off between cost and quality. Public services are essential to modern life and are fundamental aspects of modern welfare states. They claim a significant part of the government budget and are in most societies subject to stark political debates. For moral reasons, services should be guaranteed and provided universally. Public services play also an important role in the development of the region. Private sector dynamism versus public sector inefficiency has been the dominant political narrative of the last few decades. The question is if the private sector delivers better value in public services. This is a fact that private sector and public sector can operate in very different worlds that is governed by a very different set of norms and values. There are a number of fundamental differences between the public and the private sector and its potential. Public sector may be more slower, but more democratic in decision-making processes, while private sector faster and dynamic and leadership-oriented. Public sector can be more outcome-oriented and private sector at the same time more efficiency-oriented. Public sector answers to clients that are communities and citizens, but private sector organizations may answer to customers and stakeholders. Public sector may have more stereotypically feminine qualities such as listening and sensitivity, while private sector can be more masculine by being risk-taking and decisive. In the end, public sector's bottom line is not the same as private sector's bottom line. While public sector's goals, usually and preferably, is to make the world a better place, then private sector's is usually to make a profit. Of course, this is a cross caricature of the differences, but it has a point to it. The characteristics of both sides are visible and well illustrated in public-private sector relationships. So we have discussed what exactly are services, also what are public services, and now we have come to a point where we need to ask and talk about e-services in the public sector context. The definition is emphasized as follows. Basically, e-services in the public sector deeds, efforts or performances whose delivery in the public sector domain is mediated by IT. This includes elements such as e-tailing, which is electronic retailing, customer support and service delivery. Basically, it is defined by three dimensions, which are, we're talking about the service, that is both electronic and public. E-services are internet-based, interactive, customer-driven and integrated with related technologies and processes within the organization. There is an increase in the development and use of e-services in the public sector context. The E represents that something is done electronically and can thus be linked to an electronic artifact. The service represents something intangible, a process in which value is created for someone. There is also a challenge with an idea, as there are many often synonymously used concepts such as e-government service, e-service, digital service, e-public service, website channel, and so on. But are they all the same? Do they represent the same phenomenon? There is a similar problem with e-government, which is often interchangeably used with digital government, e-governance, and so on. Also, here's the same question. Are they all the same and representing the same thing or the same phenomenon? E-service arguably suffers from conceptual vagueness, theoretical neglect, and ghettoization, which are referring to the inability to build on previous results and theory development from e-government research, as well as adjoining fields of research. The variety of concepts and definitions used to study and describe e-services in the e-government context not only makes it difficult for researchers and practitioners to discuss use and development of e-services in the public sector, it also makes e-government research on e-services an easy prey for the critics, as it illustrates difficulties for researchers to build knowledge in a cumulative manner. There can be some problems with public services. Based on Estonia's experience, there can sometimes be a lack of central coordination and regional cooperation between ministries as well. There can also be a lack of ownership when developing public services, such as who is responsible for the process. Also, there is a lack of process-based management and thinking in regards to managing, developing and analyzing public services. Often the scope, content and quality of provided services is not mapped and charted. The minimum requirements for providing public services have not been stipulated, and the influence indicators of public service provision are vague and undefined. There are also some problems regarding delegating public services. Public services are disappearing from counties. The principles for delegating public services are vague and undefined. The administration and information support services are not effective enough. And I would like to leave you with a thought. What do you think? Could private sector do a better job in providing public services than the public sector? Well, thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next mini lecture.